Good morning. Good morning. Hello, my loves. It is so beautiful to connect with each of you today. Let's go ahead and begin our journey into part 4 of Metatron and his ascension journey and the many titles that Metatron or Enoch bore through the ascension journey to becoming the Metatron. And again, today is the Prince of Presence. We're going to dive into what that means. It is, as it sounds, being present in the now, a very familiar concept and construct. And so, from the creator perspective, if we are merging our mind with that of the mind of God, then what true gifts, what true power, what is the mindset, the frame of reference through which we view this gift of presence, of being able to connect in the present moment now. And much like the keeper of secrets yesterday in part 3, there are many, many, many gifts that we could be resonating and connecting to. So we're going to focus in on two aspects. The first and primary aspect is that in a present moment, our ability to observe, and not just observe from, say, the human perspective, also the starseed or your godlike, your eternal perspective, but the ability to take one thing and put it together with another and unify them into your own objective, your own opinion, your own belief, your own creation. So, from the Metatronic perspective, what we get to think into, feel into, and the ways in which we can do that by truly, truly, truly harnessing our journey, our observations, everything we're up to, is by recognizing at the greatest spiritual level what we are harnessing. And yesterday we touched on the dimensions. We touched on the different dimensional expressions, emotions, physicality, beliefs, just to name a few, the astral plane, the unified plane. There's all of these different dimensions that we are capable of syncing up with. And yet, what's brought them together? I think the construct of space and time is critical in understanding. We talked about yesterday how all of those dimensional planes exist within us, exist within our system. You are able to connect to and with the mind of God because of your ability to harness, because our bodies, our etheric body, our soul body, our emotional, our mental, our physical bodies all harness all of these different dimensional aspects. But what is the one thing that helps us to unify them into one coherent field? And so we have to peel this back to truly understand the present moment and the Prince of Presence and what that title is all about. We have to peel those back. And that one thing that unifies it is your breath, your heartbeat. And with that comes a rhythm, right? And with a rhythm comes time and timing. And so timing is the one unifying force that unites all of the presence, that brings it into one full-blown cohesive field. And so today, we're going to talk about space and time. We're going to help you to gain the awareness of what it truly means to not only harness the now and the present moment, so you can do that. You can leverage your genius, right? Your genius as a creator being is to take one thing, take the other, blend them together, and make them your own. But to truly, truly harness it, we get to observe it from the perspective of timelessness. And so that's what our meditation is going to focus on today. But before we do that, I want to give you some context. I love pulling together a little bit more of the story of consciousness, right? As we're exploring the Metatron, the mind of God, it is being evidenced and played out. There is no one story, if you will, per se, just for Enoch and just for the Metatron. Again, the Metatron is much more of a neural network than the Metatron is one individual archangel, if you will. That is often the construct that the Metatron is thought of in, but it's truly an archetype. The Metatron is multiple, 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 just like a cloud has multiple servers that hold and harness different bodies of information. We could look at the sacred knowledge that we talked about yesterday as well, that got fragmented and distributed around the globe with different hubs, if you will, of specific teachings that help us to harness each of these gifts. And so when we're speaking to the construct of time, we get to go back to that origin point when that entire body of knowledge and wisdom of what it is to be a creator was harnessed fully as one, right? Before it divided and split and made its way around the globe, not only through varying languages and tribes, but also through the different teachings that were here to guide humanity through its evolutionary process. And so when we back up, right, probably going the wrong way, but on the camera here, but when we back up on the timeline to that origin point, we should circle it into the center. That's truly what happened, because it's all circuitous, it's nonlinear. When we back up to that origin point, when that whole body of work was together, we get to truly ask the question, what did we look like as humans? Were we even humans at that point? What was that original construct? What were our abilities at that time? What did the world look like? What were the creators and the gods that were here that were wielding light to help us birth into the current version and aspect that we are? And so the mythology holds an incredibly long body of work and stories around this, and it goes into the extreme of Atlantean times. We could go into Lemurian times. There are threads, and this is how I want you to think about this. There are threads, there are loops that get opened, and over the thousands of years has been dismissed. And so my invitation to you is, on these constructs of these different timelines, is to allow yourself to just, again, get outside of the box of the construct of the matrix, the construct of what is modern belief, the construct of what and how your brain has been forged. Because again, we are here forging a new evolutionary construct. And in order to forge that, the foundation from which we emerge from has to be willing to look outside of time and space. And in order to wrap our minds around that, we get to come to the construct that these advanced beings that were here supporting us probably also had some knowledge of, I'm going to call it time travel. And yet I'm going to prove to you today, the construct of time travel is literally living within your bodies, right? It may not be an actual, my whole physical being is going to go drop into another era and epic. However, aspects of time are held within our bodies at a molecular level. Light has been frozen and pinned in time. When we look at a tree that has, 100 years worth of life, when we look at those center rings, we're looking at molecules and particles that were formed 100 years ago. So that were captured, that were pinned, if you will. So we are looking at that. We are looking back in time in those moments. And the same thing can be said for our bodies. For our bodies are harnessing and holding light that was pinned into a specific energetic form, if you will, into a geometric structure that maybe was done in the time of the grandparent and passed on to the next parent and the mother and so on, or the father and so on and so forth, until we are now holding it within our bodies. So again, we have this ability to tune our minds in to timelessness and to jump across these threads of time. So for the historic, I don't even want to call it actually historic, from the construct of the overall cycles and these threads that are evidencing and have evidenced themselves through the mythology, through the stories that have been handed down. There's pretty unanimous consensus that the current era we are in is the completion of the Kali Yuga. And the Kali Yuga is a name within the Eastern and the Vedic teachings that says the end of the epic, the end of the era. And so where I would like us to jump to is, say, 26,000 thereabout years back to the beginning of that epic and era. And also the awareness that somewhere in between all of this was a great cataclysm, meaning time was functioning at a different speed and a different pace. And if you're unaware of what I'm speaking to in that construct, all you need to do is remember a moment when you went into a meditation and came out an hour and a half later, according to 3D Earth time, but on sacred time, it felt like 3 minutes, right? It felt like the flash of an eye, just like these meditations do. We can go for 45 and it feels like we're in for 5. That is because we are tracking in a different construct, a different pacing. It is still timing, but it is what in the sacred sciences is known as sacred time. And so when we connect to that body of sacred time, we're able to travel across these different storylines. It's how you're able to have flashes and envision yourself in Lemuria or Atlantis, or in a Roman epic or a Greek tale, right? Like all of these different elements begin to weave themselves together. And so within the Kali Yuga, what is important to explain is that it's as though we've come from this moment following this trajectory of a sine wave. And at this cataclysm, it's almost as though the earth was shoved down into the depths, into an incredible degree of density. And we have been on, since the times of Christ, we have been on this ascension process back up. However, we are now coming through the surface, right? We are piercing and penetrating the surface, returning to sacred time. We are returning to sacred time. It is why things seem to be speeding up, among many other reasons, but it is one of the reasons why things in time seems to be speeding up, and why we have so much greater capacity, because the energy is moving at such a much faster rate, and we are adapting, we are evolving and learning to keep up with it and condense it into a concise moment. So today we are going to, that frame up is critical, right? Because today what we're going to be doing is collecting all of these threads, all of these different timelines that we are able to tap into, whether it's your own historical lineage, your ancestral lineage, your genetic and energetic lineage. There's so many different constructs of time that we are at any given moment orienting ourselves to. And the overall objective from the Metatronic perspective is to be identifying with the meta of those timelines, so that your brain is orienting itself as it merges with the mind of the Metatron, as it becomes one focalized hub of all of these timelines condensing into one. We are at the end of the Kali Yuga. It is at the end of a timeline. A new timeline is being forged. And you as creators have now been gifted and have learned what the power of presence can do. It is consciously within our realm and our scope and our ability to forge all of these together and pick the greatest of the great, to pick the golden thread out of that and begin to stitch that into the fabric of what is to come. So with that, taking a nice deep breath in, nice big exhale out. Another nice deep breath in. Another nice exhale out. And one more nice deep breath in. And a nice big sigh, relaxation, as we begin our journey today. What's interesting about this is we're going to condense it into sacred time and be in a few minutes and do seemingly days worth of work in a very short and concise period. We're going to follow the condensation that has occurred as we have traveled through this current timeline, the last 26,000 years. We're going to allow ourselves to begin to jump timelines in just a moment. First, I want to connect you through the light link to that golden thread. Let yourself reach into the heavens, reach into your consciousness, and just feel that beam of light shining down, imagining the sun connecting with the top of your mind and feeling that golden energy melting into your system. And as it does, envisioning it melting all the way through, down your spine, in and through your heart, filling the liquid waters, the golden waters of your heart, that pool of energy and love, all the way down, over the tailbone, through the tailbone, and into the hips and the feet, as though that golden light is pouring now into the earth. Nice deep breath in here, breathing in the golden light and letting the oxygen of and through your body over the next couple of breaths, cycle this golden light all the way through your system. Not only cleaning and clearing the energetic pipes, if you will, but also on a cellular level. And notice the shift in the field as you take this in, maybe a little breeze if you're outside, or a sound somewhere in your home, licking the lips, relaxing the jaw, as we embrace the Metatron as the Prince of Presence, sovereign time. And as you breathe in now, feeling the earth beneath you opening up, as you become not only one with the crystal quartz, but also begin to follow the sacred spiral of life and of timing. All of these threads we could envision like electrical cords or fiber optics woven into one cohesive thread that you plug into every day. Your ancestral lineage, your genetic and energetic lineage, your tribal lineage. And then we can get more specific on that front, or we could get into even the Western collective lineage. We could begin to parse these timelines for what they are over and over and over again. Where I want you to land today as you connect with the center of the earth at the crystal quartz is feeling yourself embracing that diamond ray as though the sun has now been absorbed into the center of your mind. Your third eye turning on, the pineal gland at the back of your mind turning on as though a light switch has been thrown in a brilliant, bright white. Light is activated. And as we do, we're just going to take a moment to feel the different layers of time in your body and your system. Blood cells, I'm going to get these exact numbers wrong, but blood cells replace themselves, I believe, every 60 to 90 days. It could be even less. Whole new set of blood cells in the body, meaning you are reprogramming your body to golden light. If you were to do this every day, feeding those cells with the golden light, to the frequency of that light. Imagine the detoxification. Our bones are more like a year to a year and a quarter. So just in that, feeling back to a year ago and how your body is holding different energetics from different times. And imagining a year and a quarter out, how your bones, having replaced themselves a year from now, could be infused with energies that were formed and forged of this frequency of the diamond ray of your divine blueprint. And let's face it, you as the carrier of presence have the ability through this diamond ray to actually reprogram the bones to this frequency in the here and now. But that's a different conversation. It's a different more technical meditation that no is not proven out by science. However, there are some areas of energy medicine that are showing what are deemed miraculous energies. Again, separate conversation. Another nice deep breath in here. I want you to feel into your childhood. Where in your body is your childhood living? Typically, it's in the cells of the different organs. Our organs hold those imprints very loudly, especially depending on your intuitive style, whether you see, hear, feel. If you're a feeler, then you have a lot of organ imprinting. The energy expresses itself differently, but feel into your childhood and the emotional body that has been programmed along with it. And I want you here, we're going to shift now from the different timelines. If you feel yourself drifting and jumping to past lives, that's awesome. Just keep rolling with it. But we're going to shift now to observing these timelines in a different way. I want you to feel, we've been feeling the physical body. It feels dense. It feels not in the moment. If we think about the shifts we are calling in, I want you to feel into the emotional body. I just called upon childhood and spoke to the organs that are holding it. But that activates whenever we call on younger years, we are activating the emotional field. So feel into the emotional body and feel it streaming past you, as though you can go back up the river to your childhood and remember a fun time, a fun moment, or maybe a hard or challenging moment, or both. Find those root source threads. We're not going to jump to the actual root source in this moment. We'll be here forever if we do, from the energetic and genetic inheritances. Just want you to feel to this root source, this lifetime, your originating incident for both a happy and a challenging memory. And I want you to imagine sitting in a river, feeling this time, these threads streaming past you, like different currents of energy streaming past you. And if you've ever held yourself in the ocean when a tide is coming in and going out, and there's two different movements occurring simultaneously, what happens? It can become really challenging to move. You're going in one direction, and the tide is pulling you maybe out to the ocean in a different direction. Or if you're trying to stop and hold yourself steady with a wave coming against you and not be knocked down by it, it's easy to get caught up in the timing and the construct of the timing and the stories and the lessons that were learned in that moment. No matter how much we evolve and change who we are from a frequency perspective, you can see how without consciousness, you could get pulled to the side, down a tangent or a rabbit hole, drawn under into overwhelm or exhausted. I want you now to feel yourself as a rock, steadying your pace, and start to tune in to some other currents streaming past you. I mentioned ancestral, genetic, and energetic. Let yourself now feel those for the core units of your energy field that help to forge your energy field. Feel those timelines, again, streaming past you. I don't want you to go into them and get knocked over. Just feel, notice what this looks like. It may be just different awareness of your subtle energy body. You may not see anything. You may just feel activations, if you will, in a very subtle sense within your energy field, the different layers. Next, I want you to tune into your energetic, energetic lineage. And what I mean by that is the womb line, if you will, the energies that have been passed down by the mother line. And now I want you to shift to your tribal. We're going to go through a couple different layers here. Tribal meaning the community and culture you were raised in, as well as the familial culture, the community and culture, for example, other example that you now find yourself working in, the people outside of work that you surround yourself with. Feel all of these different tribes. We all have many tribes that we orient to because we have the capacity to connect on so many levels. And next, feeling, if you live in whatever country, I'm going to say whatever country, the tribal energetics of where you live as a whole, tribal energetics of Western versus Eastern. Notice how much more out there, expansive, maybe you have to tune in a little bit further. If you're visual, I haven't cued the visual for you, you are finding each of these within different energetic layers, like a Russian nesting doll. You have these different fields that are holding this within your body. So it may feel like layers of skin that we are pinging or tuning into. I want to have you find tribe humanity. Human tribe is the thing. And now coming back to your body, back to that diamond ray in the center, feeling all of these streams moving past you and through you. As you feel yourself within that diamond ray, your star-seeded being, and recognizing your star seed, your star lineage tribe, the light within you. Notice I brought us into the center of the center. All of these others are just layers that have been imprinted onto this light. And so when we presence ourselves, the center of the center, we are imprinting sacred time. It is not that we get caught up in time and time moves past us. It is that we truly are this soul that is eternal. And if I were to invite you to do it, I could have you ride this. Go ahead to the times of Atlantis. Trust your mind. You're not going to get, you may get a memory flash or some image, but just let it observe. Our brain is processing. When it doesn't have exact images, it just sits blank. So you'll get other sensations. I call up from sacred time, the times of Atlantis, maybe the times of Lemuria. We're not even going to get into the different splits along the timelines. But what you may notice is you begin to see that image of you riding this soul timeline and consciously choosing, much like diving off of a pier or a boat, consciously choosing to allow your thread of diamond ray of light to be stitched in to this fabric that would go through this descension process. So envisioning yourself now taking that plunge, diving into the waters of time, where all of these different timelines would fragment, much like swimming through the weeds. So many different timelines. And yet, as you feel yourself kicking and rising above the surface, you emerge with nothing but beam, brilliant white light shining on your face. Timelessness re-emerging in sacred time. And you can feel the weeds beneath you, maybe some tangling around your feet. There are treasures, elements, threads, if you will, that you are meant to carry through and with you, the lessons, the observations of what it means to be individual, to move through the darkness, to disconnect completely from sacred time, only to reconverge with it here and now in this lifetime in ways that have not been available to humanity probably ever known our evolutionary trajectory, but to your soul, absolutely. Your soul knows sacred time. Your human avatar and human construct in the avatar in tribe humanity does not. But that is what makes you you. That is what makes you the meta. Choosing to draw forward the threads to pin what is of utmost importance, to establish a new energetic foundation, and to become the pioneer that forges the future out through into space and time. The ability to take what was, not only in the density, but what was in the light, and to dream and allow the desires that are moving through you, the pull in your heart, and merge all of that wisdom together and allow a golden path to form. You are a Metatron. You are an inherent link within this vast field that is anchoring and pinning and creating new frequencies of light that are critical as the earth ascends and descends and ascends. That is what earth is. It is a descension and ascension planet to learn the powers of free will and creation. Go ahead and take a couple more breaths here. Let yourself just ride, allowing time and space to move past you. You are light, you are love, coming all the way back in. And feeling that sacred timing locked into your consciousness now as you go about your day, your week, the next elements of your journey. We are on part 4 today, leveraging your genius. And your genius is this ability to harness all of what was, to use your mind and strategically create from that perspective, to be human and starseed, to come out of time, to use sacred time to navigate, to bring us back, to remember the stories of old that are lost to time, but held within your soul and its threads, its constructs. So as you go about your days, between now and when I see you for part 5 and Metatron, the sacred scribe, I invite you to really feel into what is the story that you are writing and what is the timeline from which that story is being written. Let yourself feel those different layers. And if there's need for shift, shift. There's no doubt we're doing this in this particular moment because humanity is at the end of a timeline. Western consciousness, the United States itself, where I happen to be, just passed through its own completion of sacred time, of timing, with our Pluto return on July 4th. New stories, new timelines are evident everywhere. And that leads to stagnation. That leads to that confusion as the time moves around you. And we aren't sure where to engage. We know it's forward, and yet the energetic isn't necessarily moving forward yet because we are in the midst of transition. So anchor yourself into that higher frequency, that higher light, if you will, and allow yourself to create and find momentum from there. With that, namaste.